Being an owner-operator is often nothing but just a headache. And the reward is just not there.
Billy rolling down the highway, but the cat has got him cursed. Every week its tires blowing, and his wallet feeling worse. Got a folder full of papers, every receipt in its line. He looks at all those numbers, and he starts to lose his mind. Tears in the spreadsheets, crying every night. Money running faster than a rigging flight. Tires on the trailer keep slipping away. Sacramento wife got nothing to say. Tears in the spreadsheets, where did it go? All of my miles, but my bank don't grow. Every fuel
So let me tell you today's story. My plans today was to finish the last drop of my 3 drops. I had booked a load last Friday out of the Kansas City area, and it ended up with the 4 drops kind of around the Memphis area. I got 3 of them off on Saturday, and this morning I was going to drop the last one off, deadhead 120 miles, pick up another load. That load was going to Chattanooga. On my way to Chattanooga, I was going to stop in Murfreesboro and get my APU worked on. I changed the, out there in Denver, I had changed the AC compressor and put a new high pressure hose on it. That's a little bit of another story, a side story. I guess I need to tell that story too. Because about 2 weeks ago, I was out there in what's that town? Salt Lake City. And it was, I think it was Saturday night. And I had the APU running, and I heard this loud pop, and I blew a hose on the high pressure coming off the compressor. Well, I think I'm just pissing in the wind here. There's where the hose ruptured, but you know, it ain't but like a 10-foot hose. I may try to go tomorrow morning. Today is Sunday. If they can cut these 2 clamps on, or just pressurized, you know, cramp-on fittings. If I can find somebody, a hose shop, they can probably cut these fittings off and re-put these back on. I think I can make it work, just reusing the ends that are already on there. But because these are just, this end over here, the little high pressure fitting is made onto it, and like I said, both sides of it just has these crimp on ends. So that's probably going to be my best bet, my only bet. Trying to find this at a parts store is just pissing in the wind. So I shut the unit off for the night. It was already cool out there. It didn't drop down to like the low 70s. Sunday came and I was sweating it out. It wasn't terribly bad, but I needed to finish up some paperwork. So in the middle of doing the paperwork, the unit just shuts off on me. I was running it on battery monitor, keeping the battery charged up. I was running my printer, the refrigerator, the coffee pot, you know, just various things in the truck. So I had the APU running, keeping the battery charged. Well, when it locked up, I went out there and took the cover off to see what the cause of that was, and the compressor itself was blistering hot. Now, as to why the clutch was engaged, if the clutch was even engaged, I have no idea. I'm just assuming because the compressor was so hot, I'm assuming that the compressor was engaged and the thing was running with no Freon in it, and for some reason it just locked up, and then I heard the belt squeal and then the motor shut off. So I tried to find there's the AC guy here. Hello, it's Billy.
Hey Billy, sorry I missed your call. This is Jeremy.
Yeah, you did. I was just calling to verify that you did have that air dryer on hand, right?
Yeah, I do. I got everything you need for that.
That's what I thought you told me. I wanted to verify, but okay, we'll see you in the morning.
All right, man.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep.
So anyway, long story was, I needed it. I was just going to replace that hose, but of course it's kind of a special hose, and I could have got the hose fixed in Salt Lake City pretty cheap for, you know, probably like, well, I ended up getting it fixed a week later, but I was trying to find the air dryer, the compressor, and that hose, and I couldn't find the air dryer. Everywhere I called for the air dryer, it was going to be like 4 days out for them to order it, 3 to 4 days. The only place that had the compressor was Denver. I called Salt Lake City, I called Sacramento, I called around the Bay Area, around the Oakland area, Los Angeles area. When I was going through Las Vegas, I called all around that area. I called all the O'Reilly's, truck places, everybody could think of. Nobody had it. Anytime I called O'Reilly's, they said that they could get it out of Denver. So that load I had was going up through Vegas back to Denver. And I said, well, I'll just pick it up when I get over there. Of course, they still couldn't get the air dryer. So I said, well, I'll just take a chance. I'll put the compressor on and we'll get it charged up. So I picked up the compressor. The next morning I put the compressor on and ran it for about 3 or 4 hours. And I started noticing the thing was starting to not cool again. So I got out, went out there and looked at it, and I seen the line was starting to frost up, the main line. So I went under the bunk under here, and I looked under the bunk, and I was trying to see the fins on the coils, and they appeared to be froze up a little bit too. So I shut the unit off for about 30 minutes. I was gonna let it defrost. Then I cranked it back up, and it was running, and I was like, is this thing still not getting any airflow? And I kept putting my hand up there. I said, it feels like it still might be frosted up. So then I started hearing this knocking noise, like tuck, 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 tuck. And then it dawned on me, I said, that's the same noise it was making out there in Sacramento. I mean, not Sacramento, but Salt Lake City before the belt locked up. So I got back out, ran around there, checked it again, and I could smell, it had this burnt smell, this Freon was in the air. I took the cover off, and of course that air dryer, the accumulator, all the Freon had been come out of it. That thing was in bad shape. It looked rusty. Well, I guess it didn't hold up. So the thing ruptured, all the Freon come out. So now, because the thing was making that knocking noise, and I put my hand on it, the thing was pretty hot. I was like, man, I hope I didn't ruin my new compressor. And of course, nobody's got the air dryer, but I just called Murfreesboro yesterday, or Friday, and told him I would be there today. So what I was trying to do this morning was get empty. That's the long story of working my way around my elbow to get to the main point. So what happened today is I was going to drop that little quick load off, drive the 120 miles, pick this load up that I got now, and then shoot over there. And I was hoping to be there about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, when I got to the place to load up, they told me that I had to tarp it. And I said, they didn't say anything to me about tarping this load. And I said, I'm not tarping it for free. So I went back out there and called the broker. They told me to turn around. So I called the broker up. He says, he didn't know anything about tarping. I said, well, that's extra. I said, I'm not doing the load. I got $1,100 to do the load for 300 miles. And so he asked me what did I want, and I said $250. And he said that was too much. He said, how about 100? I said, I'm not doing it for no $100. It was 4 motors. I had to, they were about 6 feet tall. Those things were just a pain in the butt to tarp. So he called back. Well, I was waiting for him to call back to see if he could get the authorization for the $250. And about that time, I felt something set down on my truck, and I stopped the forklift driver. I said, hey man, I said, hold on. I said, they haven't came back to me yet to say whether we're going to load this. He goes, well, if we can't get this loaded right now, because I got 2 more other trucks back there that are dry vans, I got to go work on them. I said, well, I guess you have to go work on them because, I said, I'm not tarping this thing for no $100 that they want me to tarp it for. So he stops what he's doing. He called back. He didn't never call back. I called him up to hurry him up. He offered $200, and I'm like, no, man. I said, if I had known this thing had the tarp, I probably would have quoted you $1,500 on it. I said, there's no way I'm doing, I said, it's only $50. I said, I'm already giving you a pretty good of a deal right now at the $250. And so he said he couldn't do it, so I left. Well, I got down the road about 3 miles, then he calls back and says, the account manager called him and said, go ahead and give me the $250. So I was like, crap, man. I said, I'm looking at the clock, the time was ticking, we done wasted 30 minutes already. Now I got to wait on the forklift guy to come back and load me back up. So I turned around, went back over there. Finally got, the guy showed up about 10 minutes after I got there. He started putting the product on me. I got it tarped, but of course I'm not going to make it to Murfreesboro before they close. So that was him calling me back. So, I had wanted to make sure that he's got that air dryer before I get over there. Man, if it wasn't for this type of thing, when is there ever a day that just really is just worry-free? Just pick my load up, the load be as described. Camera fell off. Now my plan is I'm gonna run over here tomorrow morning, hopefully just put that canister on there and let them hook it up to the recharge machine, pull an evacuation on it, recharge it back up, knock on wood that my compressor's still good and the thing works, paying for charging it back up, and then I'm out of there. I'll go on down to Chattanooga, deliver this load, and I'll probably look on the board to see if there's anything coming out of the Chattanooga area going near Augusta. If there is, I might grab it. If not, I'm done, I'm going home. I've got other things to worry about too. For example, my ABS light. When I left the house on this last trip almost a month ago, it was like, these damn telemarketers, buddy. I left the house with, and my ABS light came on like 2 days later. And I know what the problem is. I think it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before I left, I had the shop install brand new brakes, brand new drums, and I repacked all my bearings. I was going to do it myself. I had it at the house, bought all the parts. I was ready to do it, but to be honest with you, I just didn't feel like it. So I called a local shop. I said, hey man, I said, if I bring this thing in, can y'all put these brakes and drums on and repack the bearings and my wheels on my trailer? And they said, yeah, bring it on in. So that's what I did. But I know what happened is in the process of doing it, they probably bumped one of the sensors. And if those sensors ain't touching, literally almost touching that drum, you'll get a ABS light on. Almost guaranteed every time. So I guarantee you one of the sensors is pushed away, and I didn't feel like stopping to take it off and find out which, because you can't see the sensors. I got these little 17-inch tires, and between the drum where the brake drum goes in, you only got about an inch clearance between the drum and the top up in there. And those drums are way deeper than a standard drum. A standard drum's probably like this big, and those little 17.5-inch drums, they're about another 6-inch deeper. So I've got that to deal with also when I get home. We've got to wash the truck when I get home, clean it up, fix some marker lights on the trailer. I've got to order some of them. So I got to work on that when I get, just little small things when I get home. Like I said, I've been gone for a month. When I get home, I'm taking a week off. This whole trip, man, from the time I left the house, it started out with an AC compressor on my truck went out. Then I already had ordered some, before the AC compressor went out, I had already ordered the shocks and the airbags for the sleeper. I ordered them to be delivered out there in Kingman, Arizona. So when I got to Kingman, I let the TA out there put those on. Then when I got to my destination in California, then my SCR failure light came on. I had to stop at Kenworth in Sacramento, get that fixed. And then didn't even make it like 3 days later before the AC compressor blew on the high pressure line, blew on the APU, and I just described that story. And now I've been having to idle my truck for the last week. Look at this crap, man. the whole side of the battery blowed out, man. How the hell did that happen? You know, I noticed this liquid on the ground yesterday, and then I noticed it was coming from right under here, but I didn't pay any attention that it was from me. I kind of looked, so maybe I just parked on a spot, but I didn't see anything coming out from my truck. But you can see right here, the whole damn battery split. That is crazy. Look at that. And there was one more thing that I forgot to mention that happened. The second time I was in Salt Lake City picking up that second load, it was going back to Colorado on this trip, on this turnaround. I got loaded with some pipe. It only weighed about 1,500 pounds. And I had 2 stops in Colorado. But as I pulled out of the shipping place, I came up to a red light. I hit the brakes and I looked in my mirror and I seen blue smoke coming out from the wheels. I'm like, what the hell? So I let off the brake and tried to, feather it to a stop, but smoke kept coming out. Well, the light turned green, went down the road, next red light catches me, blue smoke again. I'm like, what the hell? And so 2 or 3 red lights like that happened, and there was nowhere to really pull off. Then I got onto the freeway, and then there was a couple of backups on the freeway while I had to, jam the brakes, and blue smoke was coming out again. So finally I found an exit ramp. I pulled off. I got back there and I checked it out. And the little bracket, if you know what a leveling valve is and what it looks like, my lever on the leveling valve, I don't know if I can show it. I may have showed it already, but see that shiny bracket right there? It broke off, and because that broke down, all the air went out of my leveling valves, and so every time I hit the brakes, it was causing this tire to skid. So now look at this. You can see right there, I got a terrible flat spot. The tire is excellent up here and below there, but right across here and a little bit on this tire. So even though it didn't really cost me anything to fix that leveling valve because I had an extra bracket, it still costed me at least 2 tires, because these tires right here need to be changed because those flat spots right there technically aren't DOT legal right now. So luckily I had saved that other bracket. So when it happened, so I just went out there and took the old bracket off, or the bolt out. It was already broken. I took the bolt out of it and fixed that. So you can see this trip here has been riddled with just, the one big item was the dozer valve, and then just a succession of little small annoyances. This whole trip has just annoyed the hell out of me with little small, tiny little repairs. It's just been aggravating. It's been aggravating. So yeah, after I drop this load off tomorrow in Chattanooga, it's probably about whatever. I'm 150 miles from Atlanta, 140. However far Chattanooga is to Atlanta, what, about 120 miles, 130? So I'm probably just going straight on home if I can't find a load out of Chattanooga tomorrow.